love. Right now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome you to the big story of the morning. And we're talking tourism this morning. As I've been telling you, Senator Janice Allen, the opposition spokesperson on tourism and linkages, by the way, she has criticized the government for its mismanagement, she says, of the tourism sector. She argues that the industry has been left vulnerable due to the government's failure to act with foresight and urgency in addressing travel advisories, climate shocks, and rising inflation. Senator Allen also notes that the ripple effect of the travel advisory has been felt across the industry, with many operators struggling to stay afloat. She's my guest at this time in the big story. Good morning and welcome, Senator Allen. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning, Richie B. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
It's always
I'm doing well. I trust you're well. And yes, Christmas is closer than I can believe right now.
Yes,
wow.
It is just around the corner, believe me. But it's always a pleasure talking with you, and I look forward to our conversation this morning. I was beginning to feel, Senator Allen, that many people don't even bother to look at these advisories, but based on what you are saying, they must be taken seriously.
You know, Richie B., first of all, I just want to establish the importance of this industry, and that any criticism of it is only to make it better, because as a country, our economy depends so heavily on tourism that we have to take all the necessary precautions and act swiftly whenever we are faced with any challenges, so that there's no long-lasting impact on it, and ensure that the viable sustainability of it. With regard to travel advisories, you're right. Travel advisories are usually pretty, not run-of-the-mill, but they don't usually have very lasting impact. They're usually an opportunity for countries to make adjustments so that whatever country issues those advisories, that they can be satisfied that their citizens visiting those countries, that they can be assured of their safety.
Yes.
Now, this one in January of this year, January 24 to be exact, was a little different. It was harsher in tone, and it really expressed some specific concerns relating to both security and health-related experiences that their visitors, their citizens, could have in Jamaica. And at the time, I made a statement at the time suggesting to the minister and to the industry that this is something to take serious precaution with. And I must tell you that at the time the minister said there would be no impact. Now, I'm not saying I had a crystal ball, but if one had paid close attention to the language of the advisory, it would have been made clear that we have a situation. So where are we now? A few months down the road, we are now in December, 11 months later, and every player in the industry of every size, of every type of investment will tell you without hesitation that the impact has been felt. It started to be felt somewhere around April. And why is that? Because usually when most people book their travel arrangements, they book it some time in advance of them planning to travel. It's hardly ever like 2 days before. So people would have booked their travel already. And for those people who had booked prior to the advisory, they still came on their vacation, albeit cautious. And for those who were planning and might have started to think of making Jamaica their vacation choice, having received that notification or that advisory, which seemed to have been well publicized and widely spread, it ended up that we started to see fall off in bookings. And we are now seeing fully this year the true impact of that. And so it's a serious situation that needed to have been managed earlier, earlier intervention of different strategies, whether there be public relations or advertising or negotiating or lobbying. All of those things needed to be done earlier to stave off the impact that we are now feeling today.
Okay. All right. Now, Senator, let's look at some specific policies or actions that you may believe that the government should have taken to address some of the challenges outside of the advisories and so on, some of the challenges that are facing this sector. What are some of those that you recommend?
Well, tourism, sometimes we as Jamaicans tend to forget the true, what you would say, reach of tourism, and therefore, and the various parts of tourism, whether it is accommodations or attractions, and even within those, there are different types. And then there's transportation. For me, we have been blessed to have had so many investors believing that Jamaica is a viable place to invest their money and to seek their return on investment. And that says that we have over the years been doing something good to have attracted that type of investment. In my view, however, we need to be serious about when investors come to our shores, and if they say, for example, that they're going into the business of hotel construction and operation, fine, not a problem. The vertical integration, and what that means is that whenever if you think of tourism as a deep well, let's say, you have air, you have accommodation, you have transportation, you have attractions, retail, entertainment. They all go down into different levels of activities that can be experienced in the industry, right? And that, if you think of it as a well, like it's going vertically downwards. If you come in at accommodation, and then for whatever reason you're allowed to start taking up all of the other areas that are going down into that well, you are seeing where more and more of that dollar that is spent in Jamaica will not remain in Jamaica, because many of the instances, these are owned by non-Jamaicans. Now, what I'm proposing as a new policy direction is to begin to protect certain areas of the value chain of tourism and reserve it for indigenous Jamaican-owned companies, so that we have, if every dollar that comes into the country, right now we have about 30-something cents of it remaining in the country through salaries, taxes, goods and services. I want more of that dollar to stay in Jamaica. And in order for more of the dollar to stay in Jamaica, like countries in Barbados or like Bahamas, they reserve certain entities or certain types of services to be their native country's services. And I'm proposing that transportation, to start with, be one of those.
Okay.
And that would entail, and when I say transportation is wide. You have destination management companies, large companies owned by Jamaican people. You have individual operators like the Jutas, JCAL, Maxi Taxi, and so on. We want them to be able to directly benefit, and they benefit more, rather than feeling as though they are being squeezed out of the opportunity to earn that dollar.
To me, the government has been taking an approach of focusing on what persons call mass tourism. And I wanted to find out from you how you believe that this has impacted the industry, and do you suggest an alternative approach to our product?
Well, Richie B, I've always said, in every opportunity that I've had since being a senator and opposition spokesperson on tourism, I have expressed a grave concern that we are seemingly developing a lopsided or a one-sided type of product. And this is not to say that there isn't room for that. There is. But Jamaica was traditionally known over the years, the more than 70 years of the growth of this formal tourism industry. We were known for high-end tourism that yielded large amounts of money for Jamaica, and also provided a greater opportunity for more of that dollar to stay in Jamaica. And many of those high-end are in the form of villas and EP hotels. And EP, for your listeners and for others to appreciate, instead of all-inclusive where you spend one money and everything is done within the confines of that property, EP means that you really come and you sleep there. You sleep in a hotel. and the likes of Round Hill, Trial, Half Moon. You sleep there and then you go outside and experience all sorts of other things. So then you end up spending more money outside. Villa operators, they go to the supermarket, they buy goods and fruits and vegetables, and they employ people directly to be able to cook their food, prepare their meals, and do all kinds of things. So what I want us to see is, let us not neglect that side of the tourism business, because that allows us to have a balanced experience with attracting a wider cross section of people, and at the same time allowing for more of the dollar to remain in Jamaica. So what I want to see is a development plan being instituted where we have a ratio which we want to establish, so that especially for certain areas where we have lower density, let us not put high density developments in those areas, because there's the impact on the infrastructure, whether it is road infrastructure, electricity, water supply, sewage. We must look at managing the sort of density, high, medium, and low density, and also to make sure that it is not all one type, but it is an opportunity for different people and different types, so that more money can, again, because ultimately my objective and the objective of the People's National Party is to ensure that we move from where we are now at the 30-something cents per dollar to somewhere in the region of 60 cents and beyond, like places like Domrep, because that is when Jamaicans will begin to see and feel and believe and appreciate that tourism really is the driver of change and can transform our lives and make the difference in communities, especially when we reinvest what is earned by the government into the communities, and people's lives are changed and transformed. That is what our objective is.
As far as our tourism products are concerned, Senator Allen, do you believe that there is need for much greater diversification and more innovative tourism products in the market, and any suggestions along those lines?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I want to see, you see, as we grow, we must change. Nothing remains stagnant. We have to evolve with time and be able to respond to the needs and demands of the traveling public. And yes, there have been investments in that area. And there have been people who have been quite innovative in what they do. And the government's role is to facilitate that, to ensure that it can be sustainably developed. Yes, diversification is very important, and I want to see more investment by the government in the development of attractions, iconic Jamaican attractions, so that Jamaicans themselves can experience this. We have so much to celebrate. We have our musicians to celebrate. We have our Jamaican historians and people who have impacted our history and culture. We have a lot of that. We have our food. We have our music. We have a lot to celebrate. And people come to Jamaica for experiences, whether it is street food or it is to experience entertainment at a level that they cannot experience elsewhere. And we must develop formal products so that year-round people can come to Jamaica and experience and enjoy Jamaica and come back time and time again. And so it's not just a development in hotel infrastructure, which I will never say is a bad thing, but I don't want us to neglect the opportunity for us to develop the attractions and opportunities for people when they come to Jamaica to experience Jamaica in its fullness.
I want to get a comment from you on what we saw happening recently with the whole matter of the workers and their dissatisfaction and the strike action that were taken by several of these workers at the hotels. Do you think that will impact us badly going forward? And any comment that you have on the cause of those problems?
Well, we are very close to the start of the winter tour season, which is December 15th. So we are 13 or so days away.
Yes.
And any disruption in the industry will be cause for concern for the entire industry. The opposition is included in that. We have a concern. And it is for that reason that we had a meeting just last Thursday with the members of the JHTA, and it was led by our opposition leader, Mr. Mark Golding, myself, former Minister of Tourism, Dr. Wickham McNeil, and Senator Peter Bunting, opposition spokesperson on national security and safety. Now, We had that discussion with the president of the GHT, two former presidents, and a council member, Mr. John Biles. And it was a fruitful discussion because it was established that we are both of the view that we need to have stability in the industry. The industry is very crucial to our economy, as I said at the start. And the issues that had been raised by the workers are issues that must be dealt with. And they must be dealt with openness, frankness, and a willingness to make the changes that need to be made. It highlighted in some instances where workers in the industry were not being fairly treated or provided with the requisite services or facilities to ensure that they do a good job. And this is not to say that this was in all cases. It was in some cases. And it highlighted the importance of ensuring that there's dialogue, consultation, and a willingness to resolve the problem. My view that it is possible for that to be resolved, and we have seen some instances of some commitments and some admission of some changes that need to be made. The fact is that there are some people who are well paid in the industry and some that are not. There can be better, and the reality is that there is an opportunity at this time with what took place to make better. And I've seen where things have started to be improved and the commitments are being made. My view is that where we are, consultation is always where we're going to be able to get the best solution and to bring all the stakeholders to the table. The government, the private sector investors, the workers themselves, the opposition. But I also want to point out, it has been just the same way I am fervently of the opinion that I will defend the workers of the industry, I also will defend the investors of the industry, because it's a balance. It's two sides of the same coin. Both need to be facilitated. Both need to get their own return on investment. A worker in the industry is to get their return on investment, and the investors to get their return on investment. And we can achieve it if we appreciate that they're both the same, two sides of the same coin. And I believe consultation, dialogue, and once the parties are willing to get to a place of resolution, we will get there, because like I said before, and I will continue to repeat it, this industry is vital, and it is too vital for us to allow it to become disrupted. We're on the heels of an important season, and we need to see recovery in those who have experienced a difficult year. And like I said before, many, whether it is in transportation, attractions, accommodations of all sizes and types, have experienced really tough year. And we now need to get to a place where there is growth and development, but at the same time, return on investment for both sides.
Senator Allen, I really thank you for your thoughts and your time this morning, and I wish you a wonderful day. Look forward to the next opportunity to talk with you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Richie B. All the best to you too.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's a chat there in the Big Story segment with Senator Janice Allen, opposition spokesperson on tourism and linkages. You heard it right here on the Richie B Morning Show. It's now 24 minutes on the downside of 7 o'clock.